Welcome to the Resilient Gentleman Podcast with your hosts, Douglas Berger and Christopher Payton. This show is all about forging unbreakable men on a path to greatness. Welcome to the show.
Are you doing enough? Probably not.
Probably not.
What's up? I'm Chris Payton. This is Douglas Berger. We are talking about one of the most challenging topics when it comes to life, business, marriage, friendship. Are you doing enough?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah, today I really want to jump into probably kind of like a sales aspect.
Sure.
Look,
yeah.
Business development. I mean, we're all kind of in sales, but mainly geared for those people that are either in a sales role, who have to network, who's responsible for business development, and kind of how that looks about your energy level, your impact level, your intensity. How much are you really putting into it? Do your goals and your actions align with your expectations?
Probably not.
Probably not.
You know, and I'm in a window where that's really challenging for me to have this conversation.
I'm sweating for you already about this.
Dude, I mean, when I tell you, I mean, this is so timing and apropos to have this conversation because you're exactly right. I know there's aspects of not only my business, but even personal life, fitness. I mean, I was talking with Brandon yesterday. We work out almost every day. He eats right. I don't. Right? My scale goes up. His goes down. And so the same thing is true in business as well. And so let's dive into that. Let's talk about, what are some expectations that we have for ourselves? What are some goals that we set? Smart goals. We talked about that several weeks ago. You set those smart goals and you're not hitting them. Why?
Activity, one. So I learned a long time ago, until you get really dialed in and really good in your job, where you have great impact, but greater conversions, higher closing ratios. Until you get to that point, you better beat the street. You better be talking to everybody you possibly can. The first thing is, does everybody in your phone book or your general circle, everyone supposedly knows sort of kind of 400 or 500 people, right, in their circle. But does every single one of those people know exactly what you do and how you do it and how your services could possibly be a benefit for them? Like, one red flag that comes up, how many times you meet somebody that they had a friend, coworker, or something buy a product or use somebody else's services that their friend or coworker or whoever it was provided the same exact thing, but they didn't even know.
Wow.
Losing sales just because no one knows what you do.
Sure.
Right. And then in the beginning too, when you're just starting out, like say you're starting a new business, the number's not meet five people a day. That's a general guideline for networking. All right. Yeah. When I'm at this networking meeting, let me meet 5 people. Right. I mean, that's fine and dandy. But what are you doing the rest of the 12 hours a day? Right? You better be in front of another 100 people, minimum, right? Blowing up the phones, door knocking, dropping flyers, everything you can personally, physically to engage more people, let them know what you're doing. And until you get to that point where you can convert strongly, it's a numbers game.
Wow. You're getting a little fired up already.
That's right, my face red.
Gates. Yeah, a little bit. That's all right. So, all right. Are you meeting 100 people a day?
I am not.
Okay.
You know why?
All right. So,
because my conversions are pretty good.
Well, so fair. Well, so that addresses the question though. Like, there is a point where that isn't necessary.
Correct. You will eventually get to the point where you don't have to do that any longer, or you delegate that somewhere else. Because if it's still an effective supplier of the pipeline, then keep it.
Right.
But delegate it so you can move on to bigger and better things in scaling your business and your production. Because as you are a business owner and as you grow in your experience or your business, you definitely get a lot more stuff on your plate.
Sure.
And if you're wearing too many hats, you're not a subject matter expert anymore. You're a jack of all trades, master of nothing.
Yeah.
So you got to work on the most profitable position. And that means growing, delegating, but keeping that pipeline full no matter what. That's the number one objective for a business is business, getting that sales. And then as you scale, then of course that changes, but you got to pound the pavement.
Yeah. And in pounding the pavement, I find even when you tell people what you do, or you talk about your business, you talk about networking and getting to know people, there's a lot of times they may not understand even
Correct.
at that window.
Correct.
If they're not prepared to do business with you, that
correct.
They're not listening. I mean, I don't want to say like they're not listening to what you do, but it certainly sometimes feels like they didn't know what I was talking about in that.
So very good point. There's multiple stages to it. You're not, and depending on what you're selling too, you're not going to get that sale in the first meeting.
Right.
It's an introduction. You got to start at the top of the sales process. You got to build that rapport. And then it takes more to build that trust before someone eventually decides to do business with you. So it's multifaceted. I mean, it starts with the numbers game.
The number is like 12 contacts right now.
It's insane.
Right.
And then think about the competition.
Points, right. That's points of contact. Right. And then they also have to be in a buying window.
Correct.
Right. They're not going to buy if they don't need your product at the time. Right. I help people buy cars.
Yep.
I've sold cars for years. I had family buy the same models of cars that I was selling
from somewhere else.
When I sold cars. You know,
how does that make you feel?
Well,
it's a kick in the nuts.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't like those. So there are those times where it's like, and it's not necessarily all because they didn't know what I did. It can also be because you said the word a few minutes ago. They didn't trust me.
There you go.
That sucks when family can't. And
it's very challenging to get honest feedback.
Yeah.
And transparency. It'd be nice if you can say, hey, you got a minute? Can we go face to face? Can you please? I don't care if it's harsh criticism. Let me know where I failed.
Yeah.
Let me know, where did I miss the boat? What planet was I on that you decided to go somewhere else? And I'm not mad at you for deciding to go do business somewhere else, but I need that feedback. I need that honest feedback. Where did I screw up? And then let me fix it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't repeat itself.
Now, I got the feedback in that situation. One particular situation was because they didn't want me to get a small commission. And I was like, that's how this works, right? Nonetheless, anyway, so let's move on to...
Right. I mean, there's value in it. You definitely need to get something for your time. Absolutely.
Whether you're a business owner, whether you're a salesperson, or what about the middle manager or the HR manager, or, they're not required to be pounding the pavement.
Correct. What is totally different role?
Yeah. So, I mean, how do we grow in that type of a role? I mean, I know you've had 12 businesses. We found on your scorecard last week, the 12 businesses. All of those you just mentioned, jack of all trades, master of none. But of all those things, you probably filled the role of several different types of positions, management, all those other steps along your career. What do you say to that guy or gal who's watching this and saying, well, all right, they're just talking about sales today, so this doesn't even apply to me.
Right.
And how do you grow in that role, or how do you plus up in that?
That's actually a great question for small business owners.
Yeah.
Because from the time that either you're starting a business or you've been in business for a while, but that's one of the biggest challenges when you scale.
Yeah.
Because that's a need to add people to scale. You really have to. And then you have to delegate all those positions so you have subject matter experts in every single department.
Sure.
What does that look like in the interim? is challenging because you might have a couple people that need to wear a couple different hats versus having specialists. But like you said, HR. I mean, if you get to the point where you need an HR department, I mean, you're killing it.
Right.
You're probably doing a good bit of business, but eventually you're going to need a bookkeeper, admin, right? Maybe a secretary or someone answering the phones, business development, and then overall manager or ops managers type. So as you scale to those needs, skill set is and getting the right person is key to most things. So hire slow, fire fast. Recruiting is a big thing. So you always want to make sure you get the best person for the job, which is challenging in itself. However, the better job you do managing those roles and leading those people, the better they're going to do performance-wise and tenure in the length that they stay with you in business. And that starts with systems and controls. All right. Job titles, what are those objectives? What are those expectations? What does a daily routine look like? A weekly routine look like, and have that all mapped out? And those are all evolving. It's kind of like a business plan. You just don't create a business plan, start a business and throw it in the corner. Oh, there it is. It's done. No, these are all evolving documents. And you also empower those individuals that are running that department or that role to help them develop all those systems and controls to create ultimate efficiency. And it's documented. So now that you have employee manuals, handbooks, roles are documented, everything's right there. Think about how much easier it is to recruit, train, onboard, manage if everything's documented.
Yeah.
Compared to, yeah, let's do this, let's shadow for a little while, figure out, okay, it's all yours.
For sure. Yeah, that's interesting. So you brought up the small business owner, and I think that's something I think about often is, let's just take a trade, a plumber, electrician, or whatever, right? They're good at a craft.
Yep.
And then they have to be, so they start seeing that they're growing that business. People are hiring them to do something, and they now have to be a biller. They have to be in HR because they're going to hire people.
Collector.
They got to train them. They got to start paying them. They've got to start doing all this. So, and I see so often the guy who's great at his craft is now
correct
a manager, and he's no longer operating inside of his craft. So like, speak to that a little bit. I mean, I think there's some frustrations in business that come with that, right?
That's a very good topic because that's the basic structure of the majority of small business owners. So they're enthusiasts,
right,
in their business. And then because they love it so much, they think, all right, so this would be a great business for me. Like one of those ideas that you have is, all right, so if I love what I do, I don't technically work a day in my life. That famous quote. However, just because you're really good at something doesn't mean you're going to be a great business owner.
Right.
So you could have a very effective, substantial income, even being a small business where you are, the master of your trade, but maybe you won't be able to scale it.
Yeah.
So that's where it comes in: motivation, expectations, and what's your real goal. Is that if that's what you want, say, hey, if I make this much money and this is my role, and the bookkeeping and the admin stuff and the taxes, the state, county, and all those demands on your time, if that's what you want and that's where you feel comfortable, and so be it. I mean, that's what it should be. But if you want to scale, you definitely have to implement.
Well, so you were a business broker. You buy and sell businesses. You're inside, you're outside of businesses. You've owned 12 of them. You've been inside of highly performing power sports dealerships.
Yep.
Prior to that, even car dealerships. So when you are selling a business, right? You've got several business listings right now, a couple dozen probably right now. Should someone, let's just say you had a plumbing business for sale. Should a plumber buy that, or should a operator buy a plumbing business? And I guess maybe it depends on some of the characteristics of the business, but should a plumber start a business or should he buy a business? I guess is and I'm using plumber as a general. Should the artisan or craftsman?
So there many dynamics to that.
Okay.
So you could be a business investor buying a trade business and have no experience in it whatsoever. However,
and still be successful.
Correct.
Okay.
So that business that's for sale, if it's an owner operator business, like if the owner is still hands in, like hands on, like the majority of the business is still him, that's not going to be very appealing for someone that doesn't have that experience to buy that business because he has to replace a job.
Okay.
So when you scale your business, for all you people that want to sell your business eventually and make big money, you have to scale it to where it's ran absentee.
Okay.
Hands off, remote. Like you don't have to be in the day-to-day. You have all the pieces in place and that business is running.
Right. So that goes back to my point earlier about the craftsman getting out of the space and he's hired people to now be his plumber. He's no longer doing the plumbing work.
Correct.
Now that's more valuable.
Way more valuable.
And I get it, right? I get the logic of it, but it also it goes to my point earlier, like, man, if I'm good at something, I don't want to do this, and this as part of the operations, but it's almost required to raise the value of the business to get to that level.
If the more important objective or goal is to sell for a higher valuation, you have to scale.
Yeah.
You have to scale. It's got to be appealing. And when it comes to buying businesses or selling businesses, it's almost always a buyer's market. So they're picky. They're very picky. You'll be amazed what they ask for and the expectations. And then if everything's not completely aligned, then guess what's going to happen to your valuation? It comes down. Yeah. Now, there's definitely markets and segments that are higher demand currently. Like trades right now is great. So there's huge demand for trades business. They're fairly recession proof because there's things that technology and AI and stuff really can't replace. However, they're still very picky when it comes to marketing them or a potential buyer. So they would rather have someone that's absentee. Because thinking about how much money you have to put into the company, that's a big investment.
Sure.
And it's more apt to invest into a company that's more profitable and it's already pretty much set up and ready to get into more growth.
Okay. Should I buy the business or should I start the business?
So that's a really good question. In my hindsight, buy the business.
Okay.
However, do you have a few $100,000 that's laying around? Maybe, maybe not. But that's another angle too. You can attract capital.
Okay.
There's many ways to attain capital. And buying a business sometimes is a little bit easier than you think. So, of course, you need to have decent personal credit and all those things. You can't have recent like repossessions, bankruptcies, things of that sort. Because the banks like SBA, they approve the business as much as, if not more, approve the buyer.
Okay.
So if the business is already running good and then it passes all the underwriting requirements, it's not that hard to get in there. I mean, on average or minimum, you're probably going to expect to put at least 10% cash down.
Okay.
But you can finance the rest and or leverage seller financing on it as well. And
so you can get creative with the financing end of it.
Yes, you can. So that's imperative for seller financing. It really helps. But going back to, should you start a business versus should you buy a business? When you buy a business and you pick the business you want, and then you go through your phase to whether you want it or not.
Sure.
Think about it. You're buying this business. It's already profitable.
Right.
Say it's 5 years old, or even if it's 2 or 3 years old, you're skipping that ramp up period, which is nothing but risk. Like if you start a business from scratch on your own, what does the next year or 2 years look like? You don't even know, because you're going to have to pound in the pavement trying to get as much business as possible, but there's still high risk of whether or not you're going to be around in 2 years. 80% of businesses fail in the first 2 years. And one of the big things is they don't realize how much it's going to cost to get to that 2 or 3 year mark.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm at just over the 14-month mark, and I'm in that window of like, hey, this is a lot, right?
You could buy a business that's already profitable for about the same amount of money that you're going to invest to start your own business anyway.
Yeah.
And you're skipping 2 or 3 years of time.
Excellent. Okay. Real quick, wanted to put us on pause because some people may be wondering, wait, you guys are in a studio. I thought we were doing lunch. And I want to address that. We are going to go meet at Jefferson's at 12 o'clock, which is
35
just
minutes
downstairs from the studio. But yes, we will be at Jefferson's hanging out. Just come by, grab some lunch. If you don't know Douglas or you do know us, you can certainly hang out, introduce yourself, and get to know us. We're trying to build a little bit of a community around the Resilient Gentleman.
We'll make sure he's standing up inside of Jefferson, so then you can't miss him. Can't miss us. You'll know exactly where we are. I mean, he's got a duck to get into the doorway. So
don't have to duck in the doorway. Doorways are 6'8". I'm 6'5". So, all right. So let's get back to, though, because we've talked a little bit about now business acquisition, but, you know, I'm in a window of business where I'm like, all right, I've got to supplement revenue, right? And so I'm in a window of like, hey, this is taking a little longer to ramp up. I probably haven't met 100 people a day, which is a little bit challenging in my innerness right now. Just going, hey, you know, maybe you should be meeting 100 people a day. So I am facing that level of accountability, or, you know, I feel that coming from you. We've talked about fitness. We've talked about health. We've talked about sleep. We've talked about accountability partners. Can you have accountability partners in business?
Yes.
Should you?
Yeah. I mean, I've been a certified business coach for almost 15 years. I coached friends, you know, for free to get started as I learned it. So you got to find your own.
It's interesting that I'm just now finding this out.
Well, I mean, jack of all trades. So I actually did that just so I'd be better at my job. Right.
Yeah.
So
I can understand that.
So that's a side benefit. So you got to find your own accountability. Can you look at yourself in the mirror and hold yourself accountable, or do you need a business coach, or do you need a personal coach, or can you have a friend, or do you have a friend that could be that accountability partner? So that's your responsibility to figure that out. If you can look in the mirror and hold yourself accountable, great. You probably don't need either. However, if you need that extra push, that motivation, kick in the ass or something, say, hey, you're not doing enough. Let's go. Right.
We've talked about this before. You are a disciplined individual in general.
Yeah.
And so some folks, me included, struggle with the, you know, 5 cookies. And thankfully it was only 5 because Sabrina brought them to me.
Hey, I like my sweets. My wife brought me home cake that a coworker made for me yesterday, man. I enjoyed it too.
so that's, you know, so in business, you know, are you replying to that? Are you setting up that accountability partner that says, hey, did you meet that many people? Did you meet the people you were supposed to meet today? Did you talk to these people? Did you ask them for your business? I've got a very good friend who we talk through a lot of business stuff with. And one of the things he never wants to feel, though, is salesy. Like he does not, he wants you to do business with him because you like, trust, and respect him. Knowing what he does, he's not going to say, hey, can I sell you my product?
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I don't want to be salesy either. However, sooner or later, you got to ask for the business. You got to close the deal, period. And or find out why you're not getting it. Of course, you have to earn it.
Well,
you have to earn the right to ask.
Different though than I guess what I'm talking about. Like, so if you're networking and prospecting, and you let's just say you walked around the square and you introduced yourself to every business on the square. Does every business on the square know you?
Nope.
Okay.
But they all have my flyers and direct mailers.
Okay. All right, but I feel a little bit better about that you're not like
I haven't knocked on all those doors, but they all have my letters and postcards.
So I'm just teasing. But at the same time, so we are obviously, if you walk into, I mean, 3-4 doors down is a bakery. You walk into the bakery, they're not ready to sell.
Nope.
Right. So when are you asking them to do business with you?
So them, maybe never.
Okay.
So that's where you have to, prospecting is finding your scale or your schedule. So, and the 100 is just a generic number.
Okay.
So you introduce yourself to 100 people, maybe out of those 100 people. And plus the first meeting is casual. You just maybe give them information. You're not trying to close them on anything. You're just meeting them. You're planting the seed, and then you're looking for the next opportunity to get to the next step.
Okay.
And then the step 3 or 4 might be where you're actually starting to build that trust. And then 5 and 6, when they finally get to the point where they're ready to start looking, or they're in the position to use your services, you want to be top of mind. And then you got to stay on top of them with the awareness with it as well. So part of that is the numbers game, but going back to everything else we talked about, scoreboards, measuring, every week you got to do a review. Like if you're a really good leader and you have a sales team, how often do you review? Don't you have like morning huddles every morning?
Yeah.
So every morning in the dealership, you have the sales huddle. What did yesterday look like? All those leads that came in, where are they? Each one of those. What were the write-ups look like? Which ones were closed? Are those deals closed? Is funding coming in? All of that. So we have to implement those in our schedules too. So, all right, how many people did I contact this week? How many people so if you're telemarketing, how many did I call? How many did I actually talk to? Right. And then how many did I move down the line? And then also, how many presentations did I do? How many closes did I have? How many how much generation of business did I create? Right. So that needs to be reviewed daily, weekly. And then your goals and expectations adjust from that. And then as you get better at it, they ramp up. So maybe in the beginning, you have a 1% close ratio on the people that you actually talk to face to face. But then as you get better and better and those relationships develop, then there's more ready buyers and your closing ratio will eventually go up. But in the beginning, it's very important, be very numbers oriented, get out there in front of as many people as possible, let them know what you do, and then follow up and develop that relationship and then educate them at the same time.
That's great. Yeah. And I love that. We've basically broken down sales 101,
yeah,
right? Prospecting, developing relationships. And
I got a funny story about door knocking.
Do it to us.
So 30 some years ago, I'm selling alarms, house alarms, door to door, knocking on doors. And then this is the difference between your mentality, positive, negative. So most people will not knock on doors because it's painful, because you get rejected 99% of the time. Some people don't answer the doors, right? Or they do, like, what the hell do you want, right? It's not easy. However, if you want to harden your sales skills, go do some door knocking and try to sell somebody on the first call. So we used to sell alarms, and then the average commission back then was about $250 when you sold one. And the average in our location was it took 50 people to talk to before you closed one.
Okay.
So guess what? The positive guy, besides the negative guy, the negative person knocks on 5 doors. Man, no one's buying today, right? Everybody's saying no. I want to get back in my car and go home, right? The positive guy says, thanks for the $5.
Right.
No, thanks for the $5. No, thanks for the $5. Because guess what? Once I get to door number 50, someone's going to say, yes, that's $250. So every person I talk to is worth $5. There's always an element of that breakdown in anybody's business that you could figure out what your time is worth.
Yeah, that's good.
So if your average customer is $1,000, but it takes, obviously the more they're worth, it's going to take longer to get there, correct? But it could be drilled down pretty simply. So you know exactly what you need to do to accomplish your goals. Is it talking to 100 people a day, or is it 50? Is it 5 presentations a day, or is it 2? Is it, right? How many face-to-face meetings, presentations, what's your closing percentage? All those aspects are important to analyze so you can drill down, and then you can be more effective of how you know to do your schedule so you can perform. And then think about when you have all that figured out, document it. And then guess what? You're documented. You're a master of that department. Scale.
Right.
Move up. Let's hire, right? Train, develop. And then here it is. This is how you do your job. And then ride alongs and everything else. But then you've already done all the legwork. And it's a lot easier to implement more people at that point.
Yeah, that's good. I want to, we're going to try and roll out a segment. The mailbag.
Yes. I've been looking forward to that.
Yeah. And so we did have a question.
Do you wear tights?
Do you? That's not the question, but that's
I used to wrestle, so.
And you can drop us. You can drop us a direct message. You can post on the Resilient Gentleman Facebook page. We do have a Resilient Gentleman group page. That one is open to the public, but it's private, so it's not being posted all over Facebook. It's just in the group. If you do comment on the Resilient Gentleman Facebook page itself, that would go out to the world. But this question came in. It was a little bit about accountability, but is there a limit on what you can ask someone to hold you accountable to? So, like, is there something that is off limits to being held accountable to?
I guess you have to communicate that structure in advance. And depending on what it is, can you give me an example? What would be off limits?
I don't know. I mean, I guess the question would be, maybe you're struggling with something that's
you don't want to talk about.
You don't want to talk about with
that
someone,
you can't talk about.
You need someone to talk to about it,
right?
I don't know. Is there? I guess there's. In my opinion, there's nothing that you couldn't be held accountable to.
Right.
Right. If you have a desire to be better in an area, whether it's fitness or whatever, health or sex or whatever it is.
I'm getting an angle on this now. So if you truly want to get better and if you truly want help, whoever that accountability partner is, whether it's personal, whether it's a professional, you need to be 100% transparent. You can't toe the line. You can't hold back information, right? Like if you and I are talking about fitness and diet and all that stuff, if you're not telling me you're eating cake, then I can't give you the accurate help because I'm not getting all the data.
That's good. I mean, because that does the honesty portion of accountability is the most important factor, right?
And I think there's many of us that need to realize that we got to be transparent with ourselves, right? We got to look in the mirror and be honest. And then those because then you're only going to get better when you strip it all the way down.
Yeah.
And it's good to have accountability partner or a coach or a psychologist or therapist or whatever it is. But when you go in there, I know it's hard because we got some skeletons in the closet that you don't want anybody to know. At least I do. So that's very hard to have that complete transparency. But if you truly 100% want to get better, you got to strip it. And you got to be honest, especially when it comes to physicality and work. You can't say, "Oh yeah, I was door knocking all day long. I didn't get anybody." Really?
Right. Yeah.
Performance speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Actions are louder than words.
Good. It's very good. Again, if you want to drop a question like that in the comments or you want to direct message us, you can definitely send that to us. You can follow, share our posts on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We air this, I think, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, or I think it's called Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
I use Spotify for my
same bat time, same bat channel. Thursday mornings, 5 a.m. the drops. But
yeah, and we'll be sorting out some of the scheduling and figuring out if what days and times work best for going live, and
if live works in general.
I
mean, I dig it. I think keeping us closer to content and launching and all that is very relevant. But we're still trying to figure this out too.
Definitely. Awesome. Well, we appreciate everyone hanging out with us, talking business, talking sales challenging, business development. Are you doing enough?
Before you go to bed tonight, did you do enough?
Probably not.
Probably not.
But you can.
There's always tomorrow.
Start tomorrow. Get after it. We'll see you at Jefferson's in just a few minutes.
Let's go.
Thank you for listening to the Resilient Gentleman podcast. Be sure to like, share, follow, subscribe, and of course, please leave us a 5-star review. We will see you on the next one.